In this example, we're going to differentiate the sum of a couple of functions. We're going to need to take advantage of a couple of rules. When we differentiate this first piece here, we've got a product, so we're going to have to use the product rule. So if we have a function u times v, and we want to take the derivative of that, our derivative is going to be u prime times v plus v prime times u. For our second function, when we differentiate this piece, we're going to need the chain rule. So here, the derivative of, we'll call it g of h of x, is going to be the derivative of the outside, leave the inside alone, times the derivative of the inside. Okay, and I realize that I've mixed my notations here from the dy dx notation to the prime notation, but I just think that it's an easier way to understand what's going on. Okay, so when we differentiate our function f, it's the derivative of the first plus the derivative of the second. So if we differentiate this first piece, we're going to let u be e to the power of x. We're going to use this product rule formula. And v is going to be sine of x. So here we've got u times v, and so the derivative of u times v is u prime v plus v prime u. So we're going to have u prime v plus v prime u, plus the second derivative. Here we've got g of x being the outside function in our derivative here. Our outside function here is cosine of x, or cosine of something in this case. Our inside function, our h of x, is going to be natural log of x. And so g of h of x is going to be g of x with h of x anywhere we see an x. So it'll be cosine of h of x and h of x is natural log of x. So our g of h of x is the same as our cosine of log of x, and we know the derivative of g of h of x is g prime of h of x times h prime of x. Okay, so now we have to figure out what each of these individual pieces is. Going back here, we need to figure out, in this first term, we know what v is, but we don't know what u prime is. But if u is equal to e to the x, u prime is the derivative of that, and the derivative of e to the x is e to the x. So u prime is e to the x, v is sine of x, plus v prime. We don't know that just yet, but we know what v is. V prime is the derivative of v. Derivative of sine of x is cosine of x. So v prime is cosine of x times u, which is e to the x, plus, now we don't know what g prime is. We do know what g is, so we can figure out g prime. So knowing what g is, g prime is the derivative then of cosine x, which is negative sine of x. Okay. So we now know g prime of h of x is g prime of x with h of x anywhere you see an x. So g prime of h of x, we take our g prime of x, replace the x with our h of x, which is log of x. So negative sine of h of x. H of x is natural log of x. And so g prime of h of x is going to be negative sine log of x. And h prime of x, we know h of x is natural log of x, which means h prime of x has to be 1 over x times 1 over x. And that's your final answer. You can simplify a little bit if you want, factoring out the e to the x from the first two terms, but that doesn't really do much. I mean, maybe you get something like e to the x sine of x plus cosine of x minus log of sine of x divided by x, but I would argue that that's no simpler than the preceding line. So any of the last line or the line before that is probably sufficient for this question.